She is a digital marketing specialist who can spin the meanest website around.
And he's host of the TV show Buzz, which features nonprofit organizations receiving marketing makeovers.
Here on Buzz for Good, we talk all things nonprofit, the people they serve and the good they do.
And we talk to creative professionals and provide marketing tips and tools to help your nonprofit achieve more.
That's right.
Buzz!
And greetings, everyone, and welcome to Buzz for Good. And to all you dads out there, let me be among one of, I hope, many to say Happy Father's Day. In honor of the occasion, today on Buzz for Good, I will be introducing, or to some of you, maybe just I'm reminding you of a nonprofit program in the Roanoke region called Black Father Family Initiative. I will be sharing with you my recent conversation with the founder of this program and one of the principal organizers. We will be talking fatherhood. And one question that I'm going to have in particular is why the emphasis on Black fathers? Because in my experience, both as a son and a father, I know all dads out there, regardless of color, could use some guidance, me as a middle-aged white guy included. So I'll be curious to find out more about that, and I look forward to sharing my conversation with you with the Black Family Father Initiative. Speaking of me, I am Michael Hemphill, creator and host of the TV show Buzz that airs on Blue Ridge PBS. On each episode, we feature a nonprofit organization receiving a marketing makeover, if you will, from a team of professionals affiliated with the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke. These talented individuals donate their time and talent to help the nonprofits throughout our region and state achieve more buzz. You can stay connected to Buzz for Good throughout the week by going to our website, buzzforgood.com. That's buzz, B-U-Z-Z, 4good.com. And on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Buzz for Good. I want to thank our sponsors, Freedom First Credit Union, where people bank for good. That's freedomfirst.com. As well as the Roanoke Cultural Endowment, with whom we are working all of 2022, creating 6 different episodes of Buzz, our TV show, featuring Roanoke's arts and cultural organizations. We are busily working on our newest episode revolving around the healing arts in partnership with Carilion Clinic, and that episode will air in July on Blue Ridge PBS. Roanoke Cultural Endowment can be found at roanokeculturalendowment.org. Now, before we dive into fatherhood and the Black Father Family Initiative here on this Father's Day special of Buzz for Good, I want to invite you all to our next Buzz watch party at the Grandin Theater on Tuesday, June 28th at 6 p.m., where we will provide a sneak peek at our newest Buzz TV show featuring Brain Injury Services of Southwest Virginia. Now, that's a nonprofit with quite a mouthful of a name, Brain Injury Services of Southwest Virginia. And so part of our episode is we will be featuring the talented folks from WordSprint, a print marketing company in Blacksburg, who are donating their time and talent to help Brain Injury Services of Southwest Virginia rebrand themselves. We'll also be featuring some really compelling stories of the families whom this nonprofit has served and helped over the years. This nonprofit serves 14,000 square miles of Virginia and some 500 families each year. It's a phenomenal organization, and I cannot wait to present this episode not only at our watch party at the Grandin Theater on June 28th, but to all of Western Virginia on June 29th, 7 p.m. on Blue Ridge PBS. Now, back to Father's Day, and I'm just going to jump right in here to my conversation I had earlier this week with Ryan Bell, the founder of Black Father Family Initiative, as well as Abby Hamilton, the executive director of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, which houses the initiative in its umbrella of programs serving the Roanoke Valley. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Ryan Bell and Abby Hamilton. All right. Well, Ryan Bell, founder of Black Father Family Initiative, and Abby Hamilton, Executive Director of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, thank you both so much for coming on Buzz for Good and sharing more about your work in this space of fatherhood.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Ryan, if we could start with you, and I'm just going to kind of throw a question out there that may seem obvious to some, but maybe it's not. Why do fathers matter?
Yeah, so it is a question that you would think would be obvious to many, but quite frankly, it's not. And fathers matter for one particular reason. Fathers are the linchpin to what happens in families, what happens in community, and what happens with children. And so we have a unique ability to affect those three areas through empowering fathers if we do it the right way.
All right. Abby, I'll throw that out there for you as well.
Yeah, like for United Way, our mission and vision has always been about elevating families to self-sufficiency. And as Ryan said, like fathers, particularly fathers in Black households, are incredibly important in addressing and making sure that we have equitable access to those opportunities. And I think all of us have been or have had the pleasure of being influenced by a father or father figure in our lives. And we know the impact of that and how incredibly important that has been in terms of shaping our perspective and who we are as people. And so I think as part of us elevating families, it's such a great opportunity for us to be able to ensure that young people have the same opportunity.
Nice. Maybe this is my own warped background when it comes to, work involving fathers, but sometimes it seems as though that when we start talking about wanting to empower fathers, it almost comes at the expense of the mother. Does that make sense? Like, we want to empower fathers so that they can reclaim their rightful role as, the head of the family. But I mean, for a lot of families, moms are pretty strong, and moms are the ones who've always been there. So, I mean, how do you try to navigate that in your work?
Yeah, it's in the early stages of this work, that definitely was something that we came across, right? Was how do we empower fathers? How do we position fathers? How do we focus on fathers without sort of painting a picture or painting a narrative that we're trying to leave mothers out of the equation? And the reality of the matter is, family can't be done with just the mom, and it can't be done with just the dad. The reality of the matter is, too, that in some households, you may not have mom and you may not have a dad in that particular household as well, right? And so the way that we try to do it here with Black Father Family and navigate that particular conversation is to just ensure everybody who we talk to, every family that we come across, every child that we come across, that this is not about excluding anyone, right? This is about ensuring that the dads are in a position to best maximize the relationship with mom, right? I talk to moms all the time and I say, hey, you're doing a great job. Let us help dad get to the place of where he can meet you at that particular place, right? Where he's doing a great job as well, right? And then, we have the single fathers, right? So in some instances, in some cases, there isn't a mom. It's dad there who's in that position, who's taking care of that child, or those children, all on his own or with the support of his community, but he's the primary caregiver. And so there is a certain amount of attention and space that has to be given to the fact that, yes, we are intentionally focusing on fathers to ensure that they're in the best position for themselves. Because if they're not in a position to take care of themselves, to pour into themselves, to provide for themselves, then they'll be no good for mom. They'll be no good for the children. They'll be no good for anybody in that family.
Yes. Amen. Well, so I appreciate you mentioning that about fathers. And later on in the conversation, I want to focus on the other key word in the initiative, and that's Black. But we'll get to that in a second. I want to rewind a little bit into your personal background. What is your fatherhood story?
Yeah, so I like to explain my fatherhood story by first always giving honor and respect to my own father, Carlton Bell, and to my uncles, my many uncles, my dad's brothers and my mother's brother, who sort of painted my example of what fatherhood looks like, right? I tell people this story all the time. I just recently talked about legacy and what legacy truly means. And my parents got separated when I was fairly young, and I'm originally from Southern California, right? And my mom is from Virginia. And so we moved to Southwest Virginia when my parents got separated. My dad stayed in California for that summer period where all of his brothers, his sisters, his nieces, his nephews, his career, where he was the first Black principal in the county he was in over 100 years. Wow. And so he left all of that to come be in Southwest Virginia, in Roanoke, Virginia. And it was simply because this is where his children were, right? And so from that very moment, that has been the crux of what my fatherhood experience is, how I approach fatherhood, how I value fatherhood, right? My brother became a father. My younger brother became a father before me, right? He was a teen father, right? And so I got the opportunity to experience fatherhood even before I became a father through my niece, right? And then now at this particular stage in my life, I'm a father of four, right? Father of four. I have two 10-year-old girls, a 6-year-old boy, and now an 8-month-old little girl. And even that experience has been something new, right? I tell people I touch all areas of fatherhood because I said I have two 10-year-old girls. They're not twins, right? And so I'm a part of a blended family. And so I came into my marriage with 2 children. My wife came in with 1 child, and then we have a child together. So I've had the opportunity to experience fatherhood from the lens of being a child of separated parents. I've had the opportunity to experience fatherhood from the role of being a father figure to my niece. I've had the opportunity to experience fatherhood from that space of a biological father to your own children, and then also as a blended father to a young lady who isn't biologically mine, but for the last 4 or 5 years has been my child, just the same as all the rest.
Nice, nice. I mean, what a legacy your father gave you, because so often, I think too many men view themselves as, well, I'm no longer a husband, so therefore that kind of abdicates me of my father responsibilities as well. But your father's willing to give up an incredible career and sacrifice himself and his aspirations to move across the country so that he could still be a father figure in your lives.
Yeah. I think the key is something you just said, right? It's not necessarily, I think his perspective was different. I recently watched a talk by a guy by the name of Inky Johnson, and he talked about perspective, right? And I think my father's perspective was different. So he didn't view it as giving anything up, right? He really viewed it as, this is the responsibility he now has. He viewed it as, this is a piece of his life that has enhanced his life, right? And if that piece is no longer there, then his life isn't as full as it had been, right? And so I think that's really the work that we're doing here, right? Is shifting perspective or empowering perspective, because you have so many fathers out there, contrary to popular belief, there are a whole lot of fathers who are my father, right? There are a whole lot of fathers who value fatherhood in that same way, who appreciate fatherhood in that same way, and who would have made and consistently and continually make the same decision that my father made.
Beautifully put. Yeah, we don't lift up fathers enough, or those who choose to continue their responsibilities. That's lovely. Once again, I'm talking with Ryan Bell, founder of the Black Father Family Initiative, along with Abby Hamilton, Executive Director of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, that houses the Black Father Family Initiative. And we're going to get to Abby in just a second, but I got one more question for Ryan moving into this. So why the Black piece of this? And I asked that not really directed at or having a negative connotation about that, but because I'm viewing it as, here, a middle-aged white guy who's been a son and is now a father. Man, I could use a lot of help as well when it comes to fathering. So, so why the focus on Black?
Yeah, so I'll answer the question by sort of explaining how the organization came to be, right? I had the opportunity a few years ago to work with a federally funded program that was housed out of a state body. And the work that we did was primarily focused on parents in general, mothers and fathers. And it was mainly focused around teen and young adult parents. But the work that we were doing, we had the opportunity to do some amazing work in the Roanoke Valley, which gave us the opportunity to go to different places like the Department of Human and Health Services, Department of Adolescent Health, all of these different institutions that work with families, and talk about the work that we were doing here in the Roanoke Valley. And in those conversations, consistently, the father across all race, all racial divides, all ages, the father wasn't spoke about necessarily in the greatest in the greatest light, right? They were viewed to be absent. They were viewed to be unemotionally involved. They were viewed to be not present and active and engaged in the lives of their children. And then even more so when we started to have conversations around Black fathers, the data points that were shared increased substantially. The negative perceptions around the conversation that was being had around Black fathers increased substantially. And then when we begin to focus on some of the factors that cause fathers to not be present, we talk about mass incarceration, we talk about healthcare, we talk about all the different things that impact father involvement and disproportionately impact Black men in general. Mm-hmm. Just because of those things, it impacts Black fathers as well, right? And so for that particular reason is why we decided to focus on the Black father, right? How do we begin to empower the Black father or position the Black father in such a way that the Black community, that the Black family, that Black children who are affected by some of these societal ills that we see at a disproportionate rate, we have the opportunity to empower them through working with the fathers of those families.
Mm. Is there a carryover effect for, working with Black fathers, Black families for the country as a whole?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that, when it comes to education, when it comes to mass incarceration, when it comes to some of the community violence that we see, there's so many aspects of the work that is being done that has removed, for lack of a better term, removed the father from that equation, right? And some of it, I tell people this all the time, which sometimes is the most popular opinion. Some of it is done intentionally by society. There are certain mechanisms in place, certain institutions that have been put in place for this very reason, right? To shift perspective. There's one particular data point that I share with folks all the time where it talks about the number of children who are growing up in single parent households. And when they give this particular data point or they give this statistic, Black children rank the highest among children who are growing up in single parent households. What they fail to take into account is that the way they gather this number of single parent households is who lives in the house, not necessarily if you have a father who is actively present in seeing you, right? And so as great of a father as I view myself to be, I mentioned I'm in a co-parenting relationship. The two children of mine who live with their mothers primarily most of the time of their life would be considered to be growing up in a single parent environment. Even though they see their daddy every day, via FaceTime, phone calls, they spend summers, weeks long here. They're here all of the time, right? But they would be viewed to be growing up in a single parent household. So I think there's a huge carryover effect just to how families view themselves, how children view themselves, and how society views Black men, how we humanize Black men through fatherhood as well.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right. Well, once again, talking with Ryan Bell, founder of the Black Father Family Initiative, and Abby Hamilton, executive director of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, which houses the initiative. And Abby, let's turn the conversation to you for a little while. And how did you learn about this initiative that Ryan helped start here in Roanoke?
Ryan has been a friend for a while and a partner in a lot of the work that United Way has been doing to elevate families. And so Ryan and I go way back when he was still at the health department, and then when he was a figure and key leader over at Roanoke City Public Schools. I'm like, that's really how we got acquainted as community partners, because we shared in the work that the organizations he was associated with. And really that gave me a glimpse into Ryan, the person, and Ryan, the community leader. And, hey, Michael, I'm like, I don't know about you. Every time I listen to Ryan, I get inspired. Yes. And so when there was an opportunity and he approached us and he was trying to formalize, really BFF and move further his vision and his plans to really grow it and grow it to scale. I mean, we as an organization were among the first to say, hey, let us help you with that. And it would be an honor for us to be able to help incubate the work that you want to do as part of our own commitment, to families and families to be successful. And number two, as part of our commitment to support minority leaders, especially small growing nonprofits, to make their dreams happen in their communities and to build the capacity of our community leaders. And so it just, I think the stars aligned very beautifully, and I'm happy that our paths crossed and things worked out. And it is, again, an incredible honor that we get to support this work and that we get to be inspired by Ryan's vision and Ryan's leadership every single day.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, in a second, I want to kind of dive more deeply into, all right, what is the work that the initiative is doing through the United Way? But before, Abby, let me give you a chance to share your fatherhood story and why this work resonates with you personally.
Wow. So the year that I became CEO, I lost my dad, like 3 months into me stepping in as the interim here at United Way. And at that point, I had already been working at United Way for 18 years. And I think back at the influence that my dad has had in my life and how grateful I have been for me even being here in this community. My parents and my entire family were from the Philippines. We are natives of the Philippines, moved here to Roanoke, Virginia as a family unit in 1995. And that was only because my parents had worked at the U.S. Air Force Base. My dad was a civil engineer there, and he had 25 years of service to the US government, and which allowed us to kind of migrate to the US. And so I'm listening to Ryan's story, and I'm looking back at the parallels of the story of my own dad, like growing up, and how while they were always busy trying to earn a living and to provide for the family, I think the things that I most remember were the times that he taught me stuff. Right? Like how to change the oil in your car, how to clean a vehicle, how to ride a bike, how to read, and how, my love for like public speaking and writing, I think came and were inspired by him. And so I think back of all the examples and life lessons really that I've learned from him, and the sacrifices that he has had to make for his own family, and for me to have had this opportunity to be in Virginia, to be in this time and place, and then eventually grow in this community and now be in a position to lead an organization. I feel like this is just about giving back, right? Because I have truly experienced the benefits of having a wonderful father and being surrounded by a lot of father figures. And I want that for other people. I want that for other children that are growing up, because I know what an impact it has been in my life. And I want that for every child here in the Roanoke Valley, particularly for our families of color.
Well, I imagine that this weekend can be a little difficult for you. So thank you for sharing all that with us.
Mm-hmm.
Can I make a quick point there to what Abby just shared? That's the true legacy of father, right? There's a quote by a guy by the name of Peter Stropel, and he says, legacy is not what you leave for people, rather what you leave in people, right? And that is the true legacy of fatherhood, right? Everything that Abby just shared was not anything tangible that you can put your hands on that her dad left for her, right? Yeah. But these are things, memories, time shared that she will have for the rest of her life, that she will be able to inspire others with for the rest of her life. That's the true legacy of what a father is and how a father shows up and what a father can mean for a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And good and bad, that's right. What I'm unpacking a little bit of my own, I've 3 daughters, and, a challenging relationship with my father, and having, right. Seeing some of him influencing me and my fathering, and it's lifelong impact, and you don't acknowledge that or realize that until you are a parent yourself, just how much of your parents, both good and bad, are within you, and how you're then hoping that your kids kind of take the good aspects and hopefully can somehow, through counseling or whatever they need to do, kind of get rid of the bad stuff. Anyway, so I applaud the work that you guys are doing in this space. I want to take a quick little break so we can kind of reset ourselves and remind people what show they're listening to right now. And then we will come back in just a second. So thank you all for listening and being part of Buzz for Good. All right, we will be back with Ryan Bell and Abby Hamilton in just a moment. But for now, just want to remind you how to stay connected with Buzz for Good throughout the week. Please go to buzzforgood.com. That's Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, 4, good.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Buzz for Good. On our YouTube channel, you can watch all previous 20 episodes of Buzz, our TV show featuring nonprofit organizations receiving marketing makeovers through members of the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke. Just as a reminder, we hope that you will mark your calendars for June 29th, 7 p.m. when Buzz presents on Blue Ridge PBS our newest episode featuring Brain Injury Services of Southwest Virginia, receiving just such a marketing makeover from American Advertising Federation of Roanoke member WordSprint, a print marketing firm in Blacksburg. So please mark your calendars for June 29th. Also, you are more than welcome to attend our free sneak peek watch party at the Grandin Theater on Tuesday, June 28th at 6 p.m. Once again, free, open to the public. This episode is made possible through the generous financial support of Freedom First, as well as Bruce Swanson of Portfolio Design Services and Robert and Mary Ellen McNichols. For more information about all of this, please visit our website, buzzforgood.com. And now back to the show. And welcome back to Buzz for Good, where we are honoring Father's Day with a special episode here on Black Father Family Initiative, a program that is housed within the United Way of Roanoke Valley. And with us here are Abby Hamilton, Executive Director of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, along with Ryan Bell, founder of the Black Father Family Initiative. So in our previous part of the show, you were sharing with us kind of your inspiration, your own personal fatherhood stories, that led to the creation of the initiative. What has been the work that you guys have done so far in this area?
Yeah, so we have had the opportunity, I feel, to do some great work up until this point that has mainly been focused around building community, right? Currently, the work that we've done up until this point has consisted of what we call Dad's Day Out. We have a beautiful partnership with the Science Museum of Southwest Virginia, where they offer free admission to anybody who comes over and uses the organizational name Black Father Family. And so what we did is we turned that into an actual Days Out with Dads once a month, where we get together with our children and we go over to the Science Museum to really just build and establish community for the children and for the fathers as well, right?
That's wonderful. So that's at the Science Museum of Western Virginia in Center in the Square, downtown Roanoke?
Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes.
All right, so to be part of that, what would is there a regular date of the month?
There is not a regular date of the month, but in order to find information out about that, individuals can visit the Black Father Family Facebook page, and send us a message on the Facebook page saying they would like some additional information about the Dad's Day Out. And I will be sure to get them information in regards to that.
Sweet. So Black Father Family Facebook page or
Facebook page. Yep. Or they can reach out to me directly via email at Ryan Bell BFF, RyanBellBFF @gmail.com.
Ryan Bell BFF @gmail.com. Okay. All right. Lovely. All right. So what else you got? What else have you guys done?
So in same to building community, we also have what we call a monthly married man meetup, right? Where we get together with married men And we have conversations, build community, sort of like a counseling and therapy session, right? We have dads from all different ages, all different professional backgrounds who get together and just share and build community in that space. And then we have actual programs that are more academic based. So we have our fireside chat programs that we do that focus on a number of different topics related to economic development, related to health and education and access, where we feature prominent individuals in that discipline of work as well.
Lovely.
And
Abby? Yeah.
I think about like one of my favorite things about BFF that we've done and that Ryan has done is really collect a bunch of stories and highlight folks in our community that are great fathers and father figures, and to be able to celebrate them and the legacy that they have here in our community and maybe share some lessons learned. We did that during in February, and then we do that through what Ryan calls the Black Father Proverbs. They're kind of like short snippets and little videos that are distributed in social media. So it's just a great way for people to kind of know and kind of change that narrative of the Black father.
Tell me more about the Black Father Proverbs.
Yeah, so the Black Father Proverbs is a series of videos featuring local fathers here to the Roanoke Valley. And it really started as an opportunity. I figured I was connected to so many great Black men who are fathers that I couldn't keep all of this wisdom and good energy to myself, right? And so we really figured out a way, how can we share some of these stories, share some of this insight, share some of this wisdom, share some of this perspective with everybody around the community, right? And the beautiful thing about it, the wisdom that comes out of it, the perspective, the insight isn't only for Black fathers, right? White fathers can use it. Latino fathers can use it. Mothers from across all perspectives can use it. Grandfathers, young children, right? If you're not a biological father yourself, there's something in there for every person. And they can view it on our Black Father Family Facebook page. And it's just a beautiful display of men who enjoy being dads and offering some sort of wisdom and encouragement to those who are coming along that journey as well.
Lovely. Any other programs or events that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so we have a really special one coming up
in
next month, July 14th, Thursday, July 14th. I believe it's a Thursday. We are going to be having a program called Generational Health in partnership with United Way Roanoke Valley, and sponsored by the Virginia Tech Korean School of Medicine, New Horizons Healthcare, and the Alpha Kappa Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And the conversation is going to center around Black men and health disparities. We talked about legacy early in the conversation, and I tell men all the time, you can't leave that legacy. You can't leave anything in someone if you're not physically present and around to do so, right? And so one of the legacies that we have to begin to focus on is our legacy of health and well-being. And so we'll be featuring a gentleman by the name of Dr. Robert Wynn. He is the director of the VCU Massey Cancer Center and is actually the first Black director of a major cancer center. And so he'll be coming here to Roanoke, Virginia, July 14th, to have a conversation on Black men and health disparities, which will be moderated by Reverend Dr. William Lee, who is the founding chairman of New Horizons Healthcare, and has an interesting fatherhood story himself, right? New Horizons Healthcare was essentially started because Dr. Lee's father got sick and there was not adequate healthcare access for his dad. And that's really what put him on the journey to starting New Horizons. So it'll be a beautiful conversation where we blend the sort of academic knowledge of Dr. Wynn and the grassroots knowledge and efforts of a Dr. Lee.
Nice. Hearing that story about the starting the clinic reminds me of the episode that we did on Buzz featuring Christiansburg Institute, which in the early, I think 1920s, there was one of the founders or one of the principals of Christiansburg Institute got sick. I think, I forget if he had a heart attack or a stroke, but the local hospital in Christiansburg wouldn't accept him. And so, and the train had already left from Christiansburg to Roanoke, which had the hospital for Black Americans back then that would accept patients. He ended up dying. Well, that just motivated the other school organizers to actually create a hospital for, I think they called it the Colored Hospital in Christiansburg, that went on for years and years. Anyway, that's a separate story. Obviously there's no institutional racism in our country that would have allowed that to happen. But anyway, that's, fabulous stuff there. I'm curious, have you seen any success stories come from the work that you guys are doing so far?
Yeah, quite a few, honestly. And the success stories that I like to share with people seem small, right? They seem small, but they have a mighty impact on the families moving forward. But I was a part of a conversation with a young man, and he was explaining to me the difficulties that he had in expressing how much he loved his children, right, whether physically or verbally. And that was just because of some generational trauma that he was experiencing from his relationship with his father. And after the opportunity and coming out to some of our meetups that we have, and having the opportunity to be connected with men who were displaying that love and affection for their children, and being able to walk him through what he was feeling, judgment-free, right? Just last week, I had the opportunity to go out to dinner with him and his family. And the whole time that we were at dinner, having dinner with each other, he was expressing to us how much he loved him, telling him how much he loved him. The kids were saying it back, right? And it just seemed so natural. And it seemed like he had just reached a different point in his fatherhood journey where he was on the path of really fully being himself as a dad. And so those are some of the success stories that we're currently seeing right now that I think speak to really what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you say it's a small thing, but I mean, that's where every movement starts, right? The episode we did last week was on groceries, not guns. Mm-hmm. And the program that, talk about gun control and gun violence in our country. And that seems like such a huge insurmountable issue. And this Groceries Not Guns, they're offering this gun backpack program, which is actually next Saturday, June 25th. 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock at Melrose Community Center. They were talking about how they're going to be accepting, guns and give grocery gift cards, back to those who turn in firearms. And it seems like such a small thing, but, they noted that in whatever household those guns are removed, could be one less accidental shooting, one less suicide. Mm-hmm. And that changes the entire trajectory of that entire household and all the members in that household for their entire lives. So yeah, there's no act of love too small in the work that you guys are doing. Mm. Abby, any other success stories that come to mind?
You know what, I think about what BFFI and our involvement and partnership with that work has meant to United Way. And I think it also, to me, it represents a win for us in that I know I've learned a lot, and it has taught us a lot, specifically about the importance of really, I'll sound like a nerd here, but really like disaggregating data. Because often when we look at community problems and we think about community solutions, we always look at data from the point of view of averages, right? But they do not sometimes reveal where the greatest disparities exist. And until we disaggregate the data and really focus in on specific groups and specific subsections of the population that are suffering the most, and then zero in on providing solutions and working with that population to kind of build up their own capacity to be part of that solution. I think that in itself is a huge transformation for anybody in the social service field, right? Like the recognition that not everybody is impacted the same. And once we realize that, and once that clicks in our heads, then we can be laser focused in doing the solutions that need to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Once again, I'm talking with Abby Hamilton, Executive Director of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, and Ryan Bell, founder of Black Father Family Initiative. here on this Father's Day special. Abby, you were just talking about, getting into the data. I know you love your data, and months ago we had one of our conversations here on this show, and you were sharing with me the tale of two cities.
Mm-hmm.
And that here in old Roanoke, Virginia, depending on where you were born, and sometimes like within, I think, 5 miles of each other.
Yes.
If you that 5 mile difference in just where you were born has lifelong consequences for you. How old you are when you were expected to die, your income level, your education, the quality of life, housing, on and on and on. What work have you done in reference to, the families growing up without a father, or Black families growing up without a Black father, in place? Do you have any data around that?
Yeah, I think we are, since I talked to you about that over the spring, I think we are now starting to shift our investments and resources more and more into focusing on programs and initiatives that really address inequities in our community, specifically with what areas that you talked about, right? With a special focus on where the greatest disparities exist in our community. So whether or not it's access to childcare, employment opportunities, access to quality after school or out of school programming, employment, or in this case, the ability to have or fulfill your fullest potential as a father, moving our investments towards those areas that haven't gotten a lot of attention. It is really part of the direction that we're moving in. So we're kind of in the early stages of that. And I would hope that continue to kind of knit that fabric of support for families.
Ryan, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, the Tale of Two Cities is always an interesting conversation, an interesting topic to have. When I first heard that Roanoke was one of the most segregated cities in the nation, a city that I grew up in, it really took me back. But to this conversation and this idea of fatherhood and segregation and race and different things of that nature, I think, we have to be able to find the common themes or the common threads to allow us to have conversations in these areas. And I remember right after George Floyd was murdered, I reached out to a gentleman by the name of Chris Stoop, who's a pastor of a church here in the Roanoke Valley. I believe it's Grace Covenant Church is the name of the church, who's a white guy, and he's a dad, right? And we were able to sit down and have this beautiful conversation with a bunch of folks on race relations. And the tension around the conversation was sort of cut through by us beginning the conversation around the importance of doing this because we both were fathers. Mm-hmm. And we both were impacted that the children of George Floyd lost their dad, right? And so I think when we talk about segregation, we talk about the Tale of Two Cities, again, the what I like to refer to as the secret sauce to a lot of this that is happening, to a lot of what we see, is really beginning to position fathers to be change agents.
What's the biggest misconception you feel as though white people have of Black fathers?
Man, the biggest I would say would probably have to be that Black fathers just aren't present in the lives of their children, right? It's the most simple one, but I believe is the most pervasive one, right? And there's so much out there to combat that. There's data that shows that Black fathers read the most to their children, comb their children's hair the most, bathe, have bath time with their children the most on a statistical basis, right? And so, I think that's probably the most pervasive myth or misconception about Black men and their responsibility to fatherhood, is that they aren't present, active, and engaged.
Yeah, and what's the consequence of that misconception?
The consequence of that misconception, I think, shows up in a lot of different spaces, right? My background is in education, right? And so I think, in a space like education, I think the consequence of that background is at times we may cripple children from the standpoint of feeling like they aren't capable because they don't have a father at home, right? Feeling that they aren't emotionally mature because they don't have a father at home, feeling like they aren't in positions to be as successful as other children or to take advantage of opportunities. So we don't present them with certain opportunities because we feel like, oh, they don't have a father at home, right? There's implications across the medical field, right? There's plenty of data and statistics out there that show how fathers impact the medical health of their children, right? And if medical professionals aren't in a position to have a certain understanding around the fact that there are men present in the household that can sort of help to push more positive narratives around health and well-being, right? And so I think that it has a huge implication by us simply just believing that Black fathers aren't present, active, and engaged in the lives of their families and children.
Mm.
Mm. If you had the power, what would be one thing that you would change just about a policy or societal structure or something that would be the most beneficial for Black fathers?
The first thing that I probably would wave my magic wand around is mass incarceration. Mm. There are so many fathers that are missing from the household due to unrealistic policies, unfair practices, over, for lack of a better term, over policing of certain things that have been deemed to be not so great or illegal, right? So if I could wave my wand over something, the first thing would be mass incarceration to return so many of these fathers back to their households that have been removed for reasons that, as we see today, are becoming legal in many places of our country, right? Yeah. So that would probably be the first place that I would start.
Yeah. Never mind the former mandatory federal sentencing guidelines that had higher incarceration rates for someone caught with crack versus powder, and on and on and on. Yeah. There was a system in place to incarcerate as many Black men as possible. Is my read on it.
Exactly.
Abby, what do you see in your world as far as having that magic wand?
Wow. To me, it's about access to capital and also providing the resources for families once they are part of and outside the jail system, for them to be able to be active in their families' lives and have the ability to secure family sustaining employment and be able not just to provide basic needs and get by, but also to be able to build assets, have their own home, run their own business, go to school if they want to, have advanced degrees if they wanted to, and having a plethora of really networked supports to make that easy for families to get from one place and up the rung of the ladder.
Yes. Well, I thank y'all so much for making the time for me today to talk fatherhood and to talk Black fatherhood for this Father's Day special of Buzz for Good. Any parting words that either of you would like to share before we kind of close it out, make sure we have provided people with the information on how they can find out more about your organization and your work?
Yes. First, thank you for having us. It's always great to be able to talk about fathers and talk about the space of fatherhood. My last parting words, anytime I get an opportunity to say anything to fathers, is just let every father out there know that I love them, that I'm proud of them, and to continue doing what they're doing with their families and with their children, because the world needs you. We need you, and we're supporting you, and we love you for doing all that you're doing in the lives of your families and children.
Beautiful. Abby, any other parting comments?
Well, first of all, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And we honor you, not just this weekend, but I hope every single day we recognize the lovely legacy that you have left in all of us and that you continue to have as you serve your communities. And what a wonderful time for us to be able to support families. And I encourage all of us to be able to do that, to surround families with the supports that they need. We'd love to partner with you in order to do that and to be able to support work like Ryan is doing. So visit us on our website, uwrv.org, to learn more.
Excellent. uwrv.org for United Way of the Roanoke Valley. And under that umbrella of the United Way of Roanoke Valley, which does so much throughout the region to support families, there is the Black Father Family Initiative. And if you want to find Black Father Family Initiative on social media, Ryan, give it to us one more time.
So we have the Black Father Family Facebook page. You can find information about us on the United Way Roanoke Valley United for Alice Facebook page. You can also find our web page on the United Way Roanoke Valley website as well that Abby just shared. So you can find information in all of those 3 locations about the initiative.
Excellent. And if you want to contact Ryan directly, he has the phenomenal email address of ryanbellbff@gmail.com. I love that. That's good stuff. Repurposing that. All right. Well, thank y'all so much again. Ryan, happy Father's Day. And
happy Father's Day to you too.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
And many thanks again to Ryan Bell and Abby Hamilton for joining us on this Father's Day special to talk Black Father Family Initiative. We're going to make a quick transition from there to another nonprofit, again, that I mentioned earlier in our episode today, that we are featuring on an upcoming episode of Buzz, our TV show that airs on Blue Ridge PBS. This one on June 29th, Brain Injury Services of Southwest Virginia. And as a little sneak preview of that show, I want to play, first of all, a portion of an interview with one of the amazing people that Brain Injury Services has served throughout the years, and that is Macy Weinbarger. You will hear her voice, and then that will lead right into the interview that I conducted with the founders of the organization, Greg and Fran Rooker, whose 10-year-old son suffered a brain injury in 1997. The injury eventually took his life just a year later, but it also inspired the Rookers to help other families facing the daunting, oh so daunting challenges of helping a loved one with a brain injury.
Weinbarger, and we live in Craig County, Virginia.
Try to make it.
I'm 17. I'm a senior, and I'm about to graduate.
While word spread got to work, I decided to visit some families who have been helped by Brain Injury Services. Families like Sherry Weinbarger and her daughter Macy, a seemingly healthy young girl until the age of 6 when she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. A surgery in 2011 removed most of the tumor, but she was left with a traumatic brain injury.
Brain Injury Services has attended the individualized education plan, which is through the school, her plan for the upcoming year. She has been granted funds for camps like Camp Easter Seals that gives her the chance to get away, to be with other special needs people. They found grants to help her to go to Healing Strides to do therapeutic riding. Macy is an avid horse lover. When Macy first started riding horses, she was only able to sit on the horse for about 5 or 10 minutes. Now Macy can sit through an hour lesson, and that has been a big benefit for her ability to set up straighter, to have a little more balance. It's helped her to walk a little better.
It was 1996. Jason was 10 years old, and he had an accident while playing in the yard. Accidentally hung himself and suffered a severe anoxic brain injury. And we were in the hospital and rehab with him for 11 months. He was quadriplegic. He could not speak. He did laugh at funny jokes and funny movies. And after 11 months, we came home and had the standard OT, PT, speech therapies, but we just didn't have any guidance anywhere of how to live with this brain injury and Jason in his condition for long term.
There we go.
And we felt like we were in this for the long term.
How do you move forward? How do you set a goal and then accomplish that goal? And it just was not available. And we even thought about moving to a more populous place like Richmond, but they didn't even have anything then of the sort.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided that when Jason was feeling better and accomplishing some of his goals, and we had time, we were going to do something about that.
And then suddenly he died in September of '97. And so we started on that path with Brain Injury Services in the year 2000. That's when we founded that through the Jason Foundation. We also started educating our legislators on the needs of people with brain injury, collaborating with Northern Virginia to get the first brain injury money ever in the state for like 12 years or so. You know, it always amazes me because I feel like, yes, we founded it, but there was help from someplace else beyond. I felt like Jason was pulling the strings or something because, you know, today the Brain Injury Services covers more than 14,000 square miles of Southwest Virginia and beyond. And they work with, provide free services for at least 500 families a year.
I know all of this was born out of tragedy. And I'm just personally in awe of you guys for having taken what was, I know, an exceptionally dark time and providing some light and hope for other people who find themselves in similar situations. So on behalf of a community, I thank you.
Thank you. It's been 25 years this year, you know, since he passed away. Sometimes it's like yesterday, and sometimes it's like it's been gone a long time. Mm-hmm. So,
well, we both think he came into this life for a purpose, and we think the purpose was to help the brain injured. And if he had not come into this world and had not died, that wouldn't have been accomplished.
Right.
So we feel good about that, and we think that it was divine intervention, I guess.
It always amazes me how many wonderful people, because of this, have come into our lives that we never would have met before, and how many people we've been able to help. And there are so many people who have no idea about Jason's story and who've never met us. And when I see the progress they make in their own lives because of the services, it just warms my heart, brings tears to my eyes. And we're just very grateful we had a son who has been able to touch others in this way.
So we hope you will tune in to Blue Ridge PBS on June 29th to watch our episode on Brain Injury Services of Southwest Virginia, as well as attend our watch party on June 28th at Grandin Theater. More information at buzzforgood.com. Please stay connected with us throughout the week there and on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Buzz for Good. We will be back next week here on Buzz for Good to talk Juneteenth. For Juneteenth, we are going to revisit our good friends at the Christiansburg Institute, which we featured last year around this time on Buzz, and the work that they have done over the last 150 years. First, educating Black Americans in Southwest Virginia and beyond, and now trying to provide a resource for racial reconciliation in our community. And one more time, I want to wish all fathers out there a happy Father's Day. However you became a dad or a father figure, we applaud and celebrate you for being a buzz for good in the life of your child, your family, and your community. See you next week.